1 o'clock, but if we can't get that, we will let you know otherwise. That sound all right, everybody? Please, Brent, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Residents say they're still frustrated about unemployment and they keep getting the same answers on it. When should they expect to get hard...
Get that closer.
When should they expect to get hard answers on when they'll actually get their money? Or do you think they'll be able to start getting through on the phone? And when will new workers hired to help the system be done with background checks and training? Do you have an update on how many inmates are in temporary home confinement? And there was your administration just announced a $1 million settlement in Katie Brennan's lawsuit against the state. Do you have any comment or reaction to that?
Was the first question about unemployment insurance?
Yes, it was. Residents want to know. They say they keep getting the same answers that.
Yeah, I've got nothing new to add on that. We'll come back to you on a specific. Stay close, because I'm not sure. Dante, stay close. I'm not sure. I've got nothing new on that. Mahan, will you follow up with Brent in terms of the unemployment insurance? Rob was just here yesterday. I don't think we've got a whole lot new to report, other than if you're frustrated, I don't blame you. We're chopping through this as best and as fast as we can. How many are in temporary homes or have left them?
Sorry, an update on how many inmates are currently in temporary home confinement that have been released.
So the numbers that have been released either on furlough, parole, or for temporary homes, I think as of yesterday, Matt, was 600 and something. That's in total. Matt's behind you, by the way.
There's a total of 641, 368 individuals through furlough and release through the executive order protocol or process, and then there's an additional 273 who have been discharged from the state parole board's residential community programs as part of their mitigation efforts. There's 188 additional people who have been granted parole but have not yet been released, largely because we're testing everybody before they're released.
That makes sense. And then lastly, I think we're going to, I don't know if we've put a press release out yet or not, but we will. Overall, I'll make one statement about this, and that's all I'll say about it. I think it's a fair and reasonable settlement. We've worked collaboratively and constructively with Katie and her team to institute meaningful reforms to support survivors in the workplace. We look forward to continuing our work on these issues to make New Jersey a leading state for survivor-centric policies, as we have been doing for now a long time. Thank you. Nikita, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Governor. Unfortunately, I have more questions for you than I did on Wednesday.
I'm sorry, but that's okay. We'll at least give you one credit from Wednesday.
Sure. As we get further away from May 12th, it seems like there were a lot of issues then that point to operational problems at the post office. And I'm talking about stuff like delivery delays, large amounts of ballots just left out in the open unwatched, and mail just not being collected. I want to know, are you personally going to be in contact with the Postmaster General to make sure that these issues don't repeat for the July races? And then I'm also wondering, are unaffiliated voters going to get sample ballots for those same races? And yeah, I know you mentioned that you talked with USPS in drafting this order. What was their reaction? Did they find the expectations that you laid out to be reasonable? And lastly, do you think that, I'm sorry, actually two more. Do you think statewide VBMs can succeed without the full cooperation of the post office? And do you have any plans to extend the acceptance period for mail-in ballots received in the May 12 races?
Okay. I'll start, and I may want to ask Matt to come in here. I know for sure, Judy, you and Ed get the question off on this one. You can put your feet up for the next couple of minutes. We're still doing a post-mortem on the May 12th election, Nikita. There's no plans right now to extend anything unless Matt tells me otherwise on the May 12 election. That'll stay that way. Unaffiliateds, will they get a sample ballot? Actually, that's a good question.
We waived the sample ballot in the EO, but I need to confirm if unaffiliated's on that point. We'll get right back to you.
We'll come back to you on that. Again, to repeat what I said, I want to make sure that I'm not just reading it, but that I think you've written about it, so you know it. if you're Democratic, if you're registered as a Democrat, you get a mail-in ballot. If you're registered as a Republican, you get a mail-in ballot. If you're unaffiliated or you're inactive, you get an application that you have to put in to get a mail-in ballot. In all the above cases, it's prepaid postage.
I just confirmed, no sample ballots for unaffiliated.
What's that again?
No sample ballots for unaffiliated voters.
No.
No sample ballots across the board.
Okay. And then, listen, I don't want to put words, Nikita, into Dave Williams' mouth. He's the chief operating officer, and while the postmaster general is the highest ranking person there, the person who's running this operation day in and day out is Dave. He understood. I specifically raised the point about high density, low income neighborhoods. I was channeling your observations, and we'll see. We intend to be a full partner with them as best we can, given that we're dealing with an extraordinary healthcare crisis, and that's impacted, not surprisingly, the Postal Service as much as it's probably impacted any non-healthcare, non-care organization in the country. So thank you for that. Sir, please.
Thank you very much, Governor. As you know, many residents and candidates in Patterson are very upset about allegations of corruption ranging from stolen and forged votes to ballot stuffing and illegal bundling. Among those voicing real concern, a young man named Dion Lattimore, who told us, quote, our votes are null and void. If they were stuffing ballots, it means my vote doesn't count. What do you say to Dion Lattimore about questions of possibly a deeply flawed vote by mail in Patterson? And additionally, in the last year, your Attorney General stood in Patterson City Hall and acknowledged a slow start by his office in fighting corruption generally. Perhaps look at North Bergen and Patterson and other allegations raised by the press over the months in various towns. Is the Patterson vote problem a latest warning sign that a culture of corruption is once again growing across your state?
My state is, and where are you coming from? Where are you now?
Now in Westport, Connecticut.
I just want to know that I caught the slip. We could use you back in Teaneck. I'm not going to speak for the Attorney General. We have stood from moment one for transparency, for democracy that's as wide open as possible. We have literally marched down that road from literally the moment we've been in here. We're not far enough down there. I would love 30 days in person voting as an example. We have no choice, really. We thought about this every which way. We cannot responsibly, for an election that is less than 2 months away, and Judy does have a big voice in this as a health matter. We just don't have any other choice but to have vote by mail be a big element of this, because we don't know what it's going to look like on July 7th. And we also want to have some place where you can physically go to vote, assuming that we're in an environment that the health reality would support. I don't have any specific insights on Tuesday in Patterson. It's clearly something that we're looking at. My guess is with some fullness of time, we'll have more to tell on that. I would say to Dion Lattimore, keep the faith. Every vote counts. We've seen election after election, including some cases for President of the United States of America, where single votes tipped the election one way or another. That is the exercise of one's right to vote is the sacred element of democracy, and we will do everything we can to uphold it. I've got no more insights in Patterson, though. Very quickly.
Can I just follow up? Are you satisfied with the work the Attorney General's office has done in terms of fighting corruption?
We have the best Attorney General in the United States of America. Please.
Yes, Governor, 3 questions. First of all, any further discussions on when motor vehicle commission offices might be able to be reopened? Second question is, 2 weeks ago you let golfers hit the links. Any further discussion on whether or not some of the restrictions can be eased in that regard? And also, I know you addressed unemployment earlier, but there's a gentleman outside the side door who came today because he says he's frustrated. He's been out of work for 2 months. He's been trying to call. He's gotten no response from the state. And he thought today, coming here with a placard was his last resort. Anything you can say to that gentleman outside?
One thing I'll say to him is if he's still here, I'm going to ask one of our teammates to speak to him. So if Mahan, I don't know where Mahan went, but Matt, could you ask Mahan to meet with him and get his details, and we'll have someone follow up with him. I don't want that to mean that everyone that shows up with a placard is going to, but if he's still here, we'll do that. But the fact of the matter is the statements, what we've said still holds, that we completely understand the frustration. There's a tsunami of folks who are looking for their benefits rightfully, that they will get every penny that is coming to them, including the federal piece. We are chopping through this. Our folks are chopping through this, and my heart breaks. I don't know what else to say other than I'm completely in sympathy and empathy with him. I don't want to put words in Matt's mouth, but I think on golf, we still owe you protocols on pools, charter fishing, which I hope will be coming both soon. We are looking at golf, no promises, but that's something we are looking at, no news to tell you. I don't have a date for MVC, but Sue Fulton, who leads it, is extraordinary, and she and her team are doing a really good job of wargaming and figuring out exactly, including reconfiguration of the actual physical locations of what we will need when we do reopen. I hope it's sooner than later, but no date yet. Thank you, sir. Good afternoon.
Governor, I apologize if I missed it during the press conference. Did we go over which counties have the most cases ranked?
No, but I can tell you right now. In fact, I was looking at this and meant to say this earlier. Hudson is now, I think for the first day, gone into number one in terms of total positive cases. Hudson, followed by Bergen, Essex, Passaic, Union, and Middlesex right behind. But this is, I believe, the first day I've seen, at least, Judy, where Hudson had the most number of positives. It had been the second or third most all along.
So following up on that, do we have any idea why Hudson is suddenly out in front compared to the other counties?
No, I will tell you it's gradual. I would say, Judy, tell me if you see this differently. Probably for the past 30 to 40 days, the gap has been shrinking, and it was first Essex, and now Hudson, and Essex, I might add, continues to be, and this has been the case now for, I'm going to say several weeks, Essex has the most number of fatalities, followed by Bergen and followed by Hudson. And there is a gap in the fatalities in Hudson relative to the number of cases. I don't have any great insight as to why that is, but that is a fact.
Thank you.
You good? Thank you. Sir, we're coming at you.
Good afternoon, Governor. Phil Andrews, the New Jersey News Network.
Good to see you.
I'm sure that the $50 million you talked about earlier for the CARES Act for small business owners is going to be welcome to them. But what do you say to those small business owners who say the curbside pickup doesn't work for them, who rely on foot traffic? And the other question I have to you is, you gave the thumbs up yesterday to beaches and short stuff opening up. Does that also give people who rent out homes to go ahead and start renting out homes? Or is that a whole separate, different thing?
I don't think we've restricted renting your home. That is still, you're open for business there, am I right?
We've left it up to the towns.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. The town, thank you for that. So the $50 million, very good question. The $50 million from the CARES Act that we've been able to direct towards small businesses, it'll mean a lot. So let's just acknowledge that that's a fact. It's equally as factual that there's still a world of hurt just as there is in folks like the guy outside who are unemployed, there's a world of hurt for small businesses. So I would say two things about that. Most importantly, we need another big slug of federal support here. There's no denying the outsized role the federal government can play. They can print money and we can't. We got to balance a budget. And we preach every single day that states need direct cash assistance, which we do in a very big amount. But that doesn't mean that's all that we need. And I would hope that we can get even more small business support from the feds. By the way, the extent to which states can get back on their feet also increases the chances that we could do more of what we've been doing for small businesses as well. So you really get twofers when you get a big slug of federal cash, both directly to small businesses, but also to states. You give them a couple of lifelines. We will, as responsibly and as soon as we can, and we consider it all the time, war game what to do with non-essential retail. We just can't yet get there. Indoors, now, admittedly, indoors when you're moving around is better than indoors when you're sitting down. And that's a difference, and I want to acknowledge that that's a difference. So stuff that's outdoors is, if I get over my skis here epidemiologically, please bail me out, either of you, but stuff that's outdoors, we have more degrees of freedom. And then as you get to the indoor stuff and you're moving around, you've got more degrees of freedom, particularly if you limit the amount of people in there, et cetera. But we're not there yet. We are still largely at a stay-at-home reality. Supermarkets, retail, essential, yes. Now curbside pickup. Let's see how it goes. It's Monday morning at 6 a.m. Let's see how it goes. But I don't want people to think either that we're jumping the gun or that we're not thinking about it. And we are definitely thinking about it. Thank you. Elise, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My first question is from Amy Rosenberg of the Philadelphia Inquirer. Regarding senior week gatherings of kids at the shore, are they allowable? What if there are fewer than 10 people? And would any group of more than 10 people in a shore house who are not all from the same household be a violation of your executive order? And my own question is, for the budget update next Friday, are you expecting to announce any state worker furloughs or pay cuts or spending cuts of any kind? Thank you.
Thank you, Elise. I think, and Matt will correct me on all of the above. For Amy, if the gatherings are less than 10 and there's proper social distancing, they are deemed to be allowed. I've not been asked the question about sharing the house, but this notion of the bubble and going and breaking your bubble and going outside of it, if there's more than 10, that gives me discomfort. Is that a municipal reality, or what's your view on that, Matt?
I apologize, I missed the...
Sharing a shore house, is that the question with more than 10 folks?
We'd have to come back.
Not the
Some of
same
it would
family.
depend on the facts, so we'd have to come back to you.
Let's tell Amy we'll come back to her on that one. That, I will say, this is me to you, as a individual thought, that gives me concern. I have to say, it gives me some concern. Too early on the budget update. I don't have a crisp answer for you on that. We're looking at everything right now. We have to. We've got no other choice, and including, unfortunately, looking at layoffs because in the absence of any certainty on federal direct cash, and we still don't have certainty on the borrowing piece, although, as I said, I think we all thought, the Senate President, Speaker, and I thought that the working group made good progress a couple of days ago. We're not in the end zone yet. So thank you for that. John, you're going to take us home. John, one day you'll say to me, actually, I have no questions. But that won't be today.
It will not be today, no.
No.
I do have a follow-up on the gatherings of 10. There's some confusion about 10 people social distancing on the shore, on the beach. Can you still do that in people's yards and in parks? People have been asking that. And forgive me if I missed this, but the ambulatory surgery, is there any specifics about which types of ambulatory surgeries, or is it all of them, or is it just those affiliated with hospitals or the stand-up surgical centers? And two other questions. Governor, there were about 1,500 corona cases and about 100 deaths in the developmentally disabled community. Nearly all the cases and about two-thirds of the deaths are at state developmental centers and state licensed group homes. Every day you guys give us details on nursing homes, the psychiatric hospitals, all this other data, but we're not getting that on the developmental centers. And particularly Health and Human Services just gives a once-a-week update, and there's some confusion over numbers in the dashboard. Will we be able to get regular updates at the developmental centers and the state licensed group homes? And is there any reason why this information is so hard to come to? And earlier this week, Governor Richard Besser said in an interview that he was not getting guidance from the CDC that he needed to help formulate the plans for reopening that the State Commission and as a member of the Regional Commission. Last night the CDC did update some of that guidance. Are you confident that you will get the details you need from the CDC to help this, especially given reports that the Trump administration suppressed such guidance? And have you spoken to the President about suppression of the information from the CDC?
Okay, so John, on the first one, if the 10 people, unless Matt tells me otherwise, the 10 people gathering, fewer than 10, if it's at your house or your neighbor's house and you're doing proper social distancing, I don't think there's any difference between that and being in a park or on a beach. Just keep your distance and you're okay. I will turn to Judy for 2 and 3 in terms of ambulatory surgery. I think you're going to come out with your guidelines on Monday, so that's the answer, I think, for that. But please tell me, and then developmental centers, whether or not you've got any color on that. Developmental centers are included in the long-term care numbers, the aggregate numbers, right? So the total fatalities, sadly, and the total positive cases. You're asking, John, whereas we break out psychiatric versus others, why not do that? And I'll tell you, the last person I'm going to disagree with, probably behind Judy and maybe Ed, is Rich Besser. So if Rich Besser says he doesn't have the CDC guidelines, I'm going to defer to Rich, having run the CDC. And Rich is extraordinary, by the way. Rich, you rightfully point out, is not only got his day job, he's on our commission advising us on restart and recovery, and he is one of our 3 regional representatives on the regional council, and he does extraordinary work. I have not spoken to the president about CDC guidance, but I know Judy spoke with Dr. Birx the other day, and maybe you've got some color there. So over to you, Madam Commissioner.
Sure, I'll talk about the ambulatory surgery centers. We expect Monday to put out guidance for in hospital surgeries, hospital-owned ambulatory surgery centers. We're working with DCA for single-room centers that are associated with physician offices, and then CMS-certified ambulatory surgery centers. So there's about, on the surgery centers, approximately 250 throughout the state, and we want to be able to put out guidance for all of them at the same time. I'll let Ed talk about CDC.
First, let me say, by the way, I would have been happy to answer Nikita's political questions if you want to film them to me, Governor. Next time, I would.
We work deal, man. Actually, the July 7 voting plan actually is Ed's plan.
We work very closely with CDC in general at our level. We think that they are excellent partners. Yes, it has been slow to get detailed information as far as guidance, as far as reopening goes. They did release yesterday a slew of less highly detailed information that is useful as well, and certainly we like to work with them and work well with them and look forward to getting more information yet.
I think we still owe one answer on the breakout of the developmental centers.
We had a meeting yesterday with Department of Human Services. There are 5 developmental centers. They have all been tested. I think they're still testing some of the employees. What we are getting is a list of all of the group homes and how we can get not only statistics on them, get them into our testing plan. So when I get that all together, we'd be happy to get you all of the numbers. That would be helpful.
Thank you. I'm going to mask up, if that's all right. Again, Pat, I intended to wear my state police mask, but still on the prowl, looking for that. I want to, first of all, thank Judy and Ed for your leadership, not just today, but every day. Pat, likewise to you, Jared, Matt, the rest of the team. Secondly, again, we'll be with you tomorrow at 1 o'clock here, unless we say otherwise, and then Sunday will be electronic and back together, unless there's a reason to be together. And Monday we'll be back to you, depending on the timing of the White House VTC. So we had parks a couple of weekends ago. It's going to be in the 80s today. Maybe there already. I went for a run this morning, and it was beautiful. Tomorrow's going to be 75 and sunny. Looks like Sunday's going to be cooler. So we've got now parks open. We've got a bunch of beaches doing their sort of shakedown cruise this weekend. We are slowly but surely, we talked about elective surgery today. We'll probably talk about pools and charter fishing, and we may readdress golf at some point. We're taking all these steps, but we're all in this together, folks. We got to make sure that we take them responsibly. So opening any given door up are decisions that we're making based on the facts, and then how we execute on that is really up to all of us. And So please, folks, keep doing what you're doing, even as we begin to open more doors, staying away from each other, staying at home when you don't have to be out there is still the watchword. Having a face protection particularly when you're in close proximity. Those are all still really smart things to do. But things are clearly, while we're not out of the woods, we are clearly, without question, making enormous progress. And the more progress we